And so, um, and then James 1:8 says, a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways, or her ways, or their ways. Step 3 helps a person move from instability to steadfastness through single-minded devotion. Now, if you're looking at my paperwork, I have a parenthetical phrase in there that is that step 3 helps us to move from instability, which was wavering between self-will and God's will, to steadfastness through single-minded devotion. So I wanted to read it without the phrase in it, and then come back and talk about that. So, all right, any comments? What do you think that means? Yes, Robert.
Well, what really hit me was letting go of distractions, because
Good, very good.
that's a big deal for me, because almost every addiction, but mine in particular, I find that I'm bombarded with it, with gambling. There's television commercials, there's gambling machines in lots of convenience stores, there's sports betting is gonna come to Missouri, so those things I have to put out of my mind. And I'll be honest, they're a distraction. It's a danger, and sometimes it's a trigger, so I have to do things to put those things out of the way. Like, I avoid going to convenience stores that have those gambling machines
Right.
in them. I stay away from them.
Very good.
I have an app on my phone that doesn't allow me to download gambling type applications, and supposedly it's supposed to not allow me to do sports betting. I haven't checked it out yet, but the synopsis of the app says, yeah, it won't allow you to download those type of programs. Anyway, those are things that are really important to me, so I'm trying to remove those distractions as much as I can from my life.
And that goes back to what we talked about here in the past about using our willpower in areas that can help us, and making those choices there is using your willpower to make those choices. So, because because if you don't use those your willpower there, help limit those choices, then if you have them swirling around you all the time and you just try to use your willpower, then you don't have enough willpower.
Right.
I agree with the same with gambling. It's the same with like alcohol.
Right.
Everywhere you go, it's on billboards, it's on commercials, it's at restaurants. You can't go anywhere. I mean, you can't walk into a convenience store and buy a fountain drink. So,
Yeah.
you gotta have the willpower to look at it and say no.
Yes, or before you get to be able to do that, you may just say, I can't go in those places, I have to find other ways. If I want a soda, I do drive-through or something,
I mean, that's hard. That's a hard one. I mean, even grocery shopping, it's a grocery store.
Yeah,
You
and
can't avoid it. It's everywhere.
Walmart delivery.
Yeah.
that's a good one. See, there are ways. I mean, but you have to do what you need to do to get through what you got to get through, and then we just continue to make healthy choices, and because we have to use our willpower, in those areas of relapse prevention, so that, because, hey, when we get in the throes of things, we don't have enough willpower. Isn't that the truth? Anybody else? Okay, well, I don't know if I made David happy or not, but I'm gonna stop right here and say, let's go with, Will, do you wanna, does anybody here need, clean time? Clean time, anybody clean time? Clean time? All right, then we'll do that. So who's reading 12? Come on down. Thank you, David.
Step 1, we admitted that we are powerless over our problems and that our lives have become unmanageable. Step 2, we came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Step 3, we made a decision to turn our wills and our lives over to the care of God. 4, we made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Step 5, we admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. Step 6, we were entirely ready to have God remove these defects of character. Step 7, we humbly asked God to remove our shortcomings. Step 8, we made a list of all persons who we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. Step 9, we made a direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. Step 10, we continued to take personal inventory, and we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11, we sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry it out. Step 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry His message to others, and to practice these principles in all of our affairs. And back to step 3 that we're on tonight, we made a decision to turn our wills and lives over to the care of God.
Yeah.
Thank you, David.
Good evening. How y'all doing?
All right.
Good.
Single-minded devotion. We made a decision to turn our lives and we made a decision to turn our wills and our lives over to the care of God. We may have already chosen to follow God, letting Him define the overall direction of our life.
Do you agree or disagree with that statement?
Yes, I agree.
You agree. Well, what does that mean to you?
Well, it means that I believe God's going to lead me the right direction. I believe that His word, that I need to live by it. And for the biggest part, I try to do the best I can on that.
So, anybody else have any comments on that? Well, we're talking about here that we've made a choice to follow God, right? We've already done that. But that doesn't mean that we're not going to have problems with these difficulties in our life, right? But we need to, if you have, and I'm assuming that you have, you made that choice already, and the idea here is that it's a process. It's not about perfection. It's one step at a time. Are we good with that? Yes.
I think it's important the way the way it worded here, letting Him define the overall direction of
That's
our
good.
life.
That's good.
So sometimes that we may consciously say that, God, I gave you my life, I want to pursue you, in the overall direction of my life. But it's the little decisions every day that sometimes come up that we have to fight our own self-will to think that we're controlling our life. That's the way I understand that.
And that's really good, Robert. And I just know that there's something in that line right there that that goes deep, and your point of letting him define our overall direction of our life is so important, and that we need to hold on to that, and we need to replay that to ourselves, and then I guess my other thought was, then we need to ask ourselves a question when we take inventory. You know, we'll be talking more about inventory here in a few weeks, but you know, like, how am I doing with allowing God to take control of my overall direction? You know, what do you think about that inventory question?
That's the 11th step.
Excuse me?
That's the 11th step. So
Yeah.
I talked about it last week. I think everybody and anybody, no matter what kind of thought you have, you can go back over the day, see how you could have handled situations differently. You'll always come out as better in tomorrow.
Yes, you know, and because, see, the bottom line here is we're most of us are kind of competitive, and we usually compete against others. But the fact of it is, we really need to compete against ourselves. You know, that we're, you know, I plan on doing better today than I did yesterday. You know, I want to be focused on that, and if we can do that and be focused on that, then we don't have to. We don't really have to compete with others. I mean, we don't have to compete with others anyway, but oftentimes we feel like we do. So, anyway, all right, Willie.
Many of us still try to keep parts of our heart hidden from God.
Okay, what do you agree with that statement? Or disagree with that statement?
I agree with it because there's like Robert saying earlier, there's a lot of it that, okay, this little thing ain't gonna hurt, but deep down it does. When he was talking, I was working on the internet, so I didn't quite hear what he was talking, but anyway.
Well, so
let me-
what do you think that, why don't you read that sentence again?
Yeah, let's do that. How about that? Many of us still try to keep parts of our heart hidden from God.
I've got keep circled, you know. I wonder what that means.
Continue.
Keep parts
It means we're trying to hold on
to,
our addiction or our wills, our way of doing things. On that.
so what do you think that means?
It means that we're still trying to do it our way and not letting him have control.
Anybody else?
I like to lie to myself, tell myself that as long as I'm better than the next guy, I want to ride, and compare my sins of yesterday to today, so that I think that it's okay for me to do less sin today, then it's probably better than what it was yesterday, when the truth is, sin's still sin.
Well, that's true. But if we can get better every day,
How do we do that?
how do we do that? By recognizing that we've done wrong, and we repent, choose to let him direct our life, right?
How do we recognize it?
How do we recognize it? We become aware, we see it, we take inventory, we Do what?
That's what I was after, the inventory. I really believe that's probably the most critical part of the maturity of this trust.
It is, you know, taking account, you know, then that's the reason why I said about living better tomorrow than what I did today, you know, that, because you have to at least look at at today to evaluate it. Well, I didn't do as well there as I want to, and so we continually work on trying to get better, and that's the reason why we have this awesome privilege of apologizing and asking people to forgive me for what I've done, you know, what I said or how I said it. I'm sorry, you know. So, Robert, you had your hand up. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. My hearing aids aren't working.
Okay. I'll speak louder.
Oh, no, I'm kidding. I heard it, but
Oh.
I just wanted to make sure. So, I believe that we all know immediately if we're doing something that's not the right thing to do. Because we feel guilty about it, we feel some shame, and we think, why did I do that? Why did I handle that way? Why did I go into that convenience store that had the gambling machines? Because I stuck $10 in it that I shouldn't have, you know, or whatever it is. I believe we know immediately. So if we try to keep those missteps hidden from God, we can't, number one, but if we think we can, then it becomes easier to do it again. So I think what it's trying to get us to realize is, yeah, we're all gonna fall back. We're not perfect. We're gonna sin. We're gonna do things that are wrong. But recognize that and then do something about it.
Yeah. Good. You know, your comment there about you believe that we know when we do wrong immediately. Does everybody agree or disagree with that statement?
I agree with it.
I don't necessarily agree with it.
I don't know that everybody knows, has that conscience that, you know, knows right from wrong.
Well, let's make it, we're talking about us.
But I know typically when I
Okay.
do something wrong, I know I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, and so,
Usually know that before I do it.
yes, and, but what about if what if you're numb or overwhelmed or wound up or excited about whatever's going on in your addiction? Is that knowing still there? David?
Yeah,
Yeah, okay, I'm just checking.
yeah, personal experience, I can tell you, I know. And
Yeah,
knowing it's wrong, you still know, but
but then then oftentimes we try to do some way to numb that or avoid that or deny that or reason that, and every time, as Robert was saying, every time we do that, once there's scripture that talks about searing our consciousness with a hot iron. You know, we put a scab over it or toughen it up, and it's still there, but it's not sending that signal out as strong as it used to. So, Will, did you have something you wanted to say?
Yeah, I disagree.
Okay.
Like that. Oh. And I don't mean for us in this room per se, but, you know, if I was raised over in Iran, and nobody ever told me between what God was, or mercy or grace or anything, and I was told that my quickest way to heaven was to commit suicide, take others out, or whatever the case may be. I'm not real familiar with it, but if I didn't know, I didn't know. My conscience wouldn't bother me if I was never taught right from wrong. Now, when I grew up, I admired people around me because they all drank and they used drugs, and that was the ones that everybody, it appeared to me that everybody respected when they come around, because now I can look back and see it a little differently, but there was also the ones that didn't care about right from wrong, and they get into it with anybody. So as I grew up, I really didn't have no example in my life of what I should do. Now, I would like to think that I made the better choice a lot of times growing up, trying to be the best I knew to be, but I still did a lot of things wrong. Like, I never seen a thing wrong with smoking for years. But it was wrong. I mean, but nobody told me it was wrong, and everybody around me did it, and it was so accepted that I did not consciously realize I was doing something wrong when I first started smoking, or chewing, or drinking. I thought it was what everybody did. So, I mean, I think that's kind of why we're responsible to those people around us to let them know there is another way. And I don't want to get into too much because, I know Willie wants to share a lot tonight, but I will say that I very strongly believe that not everybody knows what's right and what's wrong, because if you don't get into the Word, or you've never been to church, or you don't have nobody around you to tell you, how would you know that's right or wrong?
Because God put it in us, put it in everyone, according to what it says in Romans.
Well, I feel like I did what was acceptable around me, and I thought that was right.
Yeah, you were groomed by your culture, I get that. But they had to override that was inside of you, in my opinion. And far as your first statement about other people, suicide bombers and things like that, it's the same thing. They have a desire to do right, and somebody tells them this is the right thing to do.
Right.
But they have the desire to do right, and they override some of that because they say, well, my culture tells me this is the way to do that. And so our culture can affect us, and that's the reason why it's so important that we affect, everything around us. Now we don't do that by trying to force things on them, but we try to do it to positively affect people around us. Because, and this is my opinion, of course, that because every person in every land, there's something inside of them, and they know that, and that's the reason why every place, a lot of places have, in my opinion, created all kinds of different spiritual searches, because they're trying to fulfill that's inside. And so, but the question here was about us right here, which I think it applies to everybody else, but we can disagree on that. If we know, because hey, you knew from the age of 2 or 3 or 4, did you steal that cookie and you got cookie on your face and you say no? Right? So you don't want to get in trouble because you knew it's wrong, but you wanted to do it anyway, so you did. That's my point. So, all right, Willie, do you know where we're at?
We have devoted these parts of ourselves
These parts, I
These
circled
parts.
those parts, these parts, let's go ahead.
to gratifying our addiction, to doing things that are contrary to the will of God.
So, do you agree or disagree with that statement?
Yes, we try to justify our wrongs to make it so that, okay, I did this that I know is wrong, but this is the reason I did it, so that God don't think back.
So this statement, when I said I circled these parts, we have devoted these parts of ourselves to gratify our addiction. What do you think that means?
It means we're trying to hold on to them so that we can, when life gets too rough, we have something to fall back on.
Yeah.
That's what
but
I think that means.
what does it mean, these parts of ourselves?
Oh, it's the, I gotta back up here. the parts in our heart. The trigger, not a trigger, but the,
You can always call a friend, you can always call a friend.
yeah, one of you two.
Anybody have any
Yeah.
thoughts on that?
I'm messing it up pretty good.
No, you're all right, I'm just pushing. Robert?
Well, yeah, the sentence before says we try to keep parts of our heart hidden from God. So my understanding is the heart is the seat of our desires.
Right?
So if we are trying to hide or keep our desires hidden from God, like I think when somebody said we may try to justify or make excuses for why we may have done something that we know is not in line with God's will. So it all comes down to our desire. Do we really want to turn our wills and our lives over to God? Is that our desire? Well, if it is, then we have to make it all the way into our heart. We have to change our desire from doing things that are part of our addiction to getting rid of those desires and putting our desires in line with God's will.
And so kind of what we're saying here is that we're using your word about desires, then we have the desires focused on gratifying ourselves by means of our addiction.
Right.
And we'd prefer to go do something else, but we've held these other parts of ourselves back. Right? You know what we're talking about? Any other comments? You have any comments?
Sure.
Well,
It's kind of like the last little bit that you're holding on to.
Yeah.
That last little bit that you don't want to let go. That you're holding on to in the closet, where it goes on to talk about living a double life that you're holding on to in the closet, that's hidden from even maybe those closest around you, that you're hiding your secret from, that you don't want to let go.
you're one way sometimes and you're somebody else on other times. And that has a lot of psyche conflict going on. And it also uses a lot of energy. Good? Well,
This sets us up for living a double life, which can fill us with guilt, shame, and instability. Even
do
though,
you agree with that statement?
yes,
So living a double life sets us up for guilt,
yeah,
shame,
yep,
instability. What does that mean, instability?
unstable,
What does that mean, unstable?
unreliable.
What's unreliable?
Oh my God, let's go back to simple words.
Unmanageable.
Unmanageable?
Our life is unmanageable.
Unmanageable, that's very good. Well,
Wouldn't that be like the food for fear though? When I start to become fearful, and it's probably being fed by something like the thought that I could not do this or whatever. And I really believe that what I was hearing was my mind and my heart go two different directions, and I could want to be one way while my mind goes another, or my mind wants to, in my head I want to follow Jesus, but in my heart I really want to see what I can get by with. How's that? When I'm alone, nobody can see me. Or, I think I said something last week about me and my coworkers talking about somebody. As long as I'm not caught, and he said it's like a boomerang, and that may be true, but in my mind, I'm not seeing it that way. What I see is I just got by with something, even though later on that would be fuel for my fear of not being able to continue this walk with Christ. It's really easy to give up.
and so the fact of it is, because of it was fuel for your fear, that means that you didn't get by with it.
Right, but But in my head, the next time I go to come across something in front of me that
Sure.
I have to face, I have the fear that, well, I've already failed at this, it took so much to get through. And I think that's what I was getting at,
So-
is that's the fear that I'm hearing.
Just, so I'm so deep, I might as well just go deeper?
Yes, I mean, not so much I go deeper, but why try if I can't get past this? What makes me think I can get past this when, once again, like I also said, all the little things like when I quit smoking and I quit using drugs and whatever the case may be, that was also the fuel for the faith that I had also. So I'm hearing the food for fear instead of food for faith. And so we gotta figure out a way to turn that around, and we can't do that on our own, I don't think. I mean, I may know it's wrong, but I don't know how to change that, and somebody else around me has already went through it and can help me through that process.
Yep, well, by asking the question to yourself, to God, and to safe individuals, you help finds that way, and the scripture says that if we ask, we'll find. We seek, we ask, He'll give it to you. If we seek, we'll find. If we knock, that door will be open. So, but but wanting to do, having that desire is the most important part of it. Like Robert said a while ago. John, you have anything you want to say?
No, not right now.
Okay, all right. Tina, you have anything you want to say?
No, I don't.
Okay, all right. All right, go, Willie.
Even those of us who have given our hearts to God face new temptations and decisions every day.
What do you think about that? What does that mean to you?
Well, that means that it's a new life, that when I ask God into my heart, it's a new road I want to go down. And a lot of it, I don't know what's down that road. Where is it leading me? So I gotta go by His faith. And then I've got to take Him from my heart and put Him in my mind and make them two work together to become clearer and closer to Him. The closer I come, the easier it gets, but it don't ever get perfect.
So, what does that mean about face new temptations and decisions each day?
Well, because we still got the old we still got the old habits that we're used to and accustomed to. And the new temptations, we don't want to go there no more. So,
Well, I thought we weren't going to, when we make this decision, we're not going to have any more temptations.
as long as we're breathing, the temptation's there.
And I'm not going to make any wrong decisions.
I'm not even responding to that. I'm gonna pass on that one.
Wake up.
Well, and so it's an ongoing journey, and we need to expect for those things to show up so that it doesn't catch us off guard, right?
Right.
We're not wanting them, but at the same time, we know that these situations are going to show up, and it's not going to surprise us and then knock the breath out of us, so to speak. Robert, you just going to say something?
Yeah, it's like we were talking last week. We have the freedom to choose. We make umpteen thousand different decisions every day, and we have a choice each time. So the key is, if whatever has the strongest desire in our heart is probably the choice we're gonna make. So we have to constantly work on building the right desires.
Good. And how do we do that?
Well, getting to know God.
Yeah, that's good. Very good.
And I believe being open with God when we talk to Him in prayer,
Good.
telling Him what we feel sometimes that we know is wrong, and asking Him to help us change our heart to the right desires. And then when we're faced with those decisions, like Willie said just a few minutes ago, when we make the right choice, it becomes easier when we face that type of decision again to make the right choice rather than the wrong one.
Good. I'd like to say it this way. Like relapse prevention is you create a plan, what you want to do, how you want to act, the choices you want to make, the feelings you want to feel. You practice those. You practice what you want. Okay? So that, and you get them embedded in your conscious and your subconscious. And so that you can pull them up in the middle of this, the time of decision, and you don't have to recreate them. You just have to say, yeah, these are my thoughts that I know that's in my best interest that I've practiced, not do that. And and then it gets better. Because the trouble is, we have these other thoughts that we have embedded in our neural pathways, and what, according to neuroscience, what fires together wires together. And so what we have to do is stop giving it time and energy and build a new neural highway of what we want by practicing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so when the new temptation goes, something I've said is, God, I don't know how you're going to work this out, but I know you will. Romans 8:28 says that you will. You'll cause all these things to work out for my good. And I don't know how, but I'm going to believe that you can and you will. And that has helped me to stay on the focus that is in my best interest. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, Willie, let's go to the next one. Now we're into the scripture.
Yeah. James was addressing believers when he wrote in James chapter 4, verse 7 and 8. So humble yourself before God. Resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Come close to God, and God will come close to you.
What does that mean to you?
Well, it means if I turn to God and I tell, hey,
Let's walk through the scripture here. Okay? So the first thing is,
so humble,
so humble yourself. So we have a choice, right? We have two major choices.
right?
One is being humble, the other is being hard or arrogant or angry, on the other side of the thing. Right?
Mhm.
So so humble yourself before God. What's the next one? Resist.
Resist the devil.
So resist. So we can either choose to resist
Or accept.
or accept. Right? Yes.
I always think of the old cartoons where you see the devil, a little devil on one shoulder and an angel on the other shoulder, and they're whispering to someone's ear, you
Right.
should go this way or you should go that way. And if he chooses the person, I can't remember who it was about, but if they choose the angel's way, the devil leaves. So it says, resist the devil and he will flee from you.
Right. Right. And there's an Indian proverb says that, an old Indian was talking about his dog, and the grandson asked him, well, which one of these two dogs is going to be the strongest? And he says, it depends on which one I feed. So it's the same thing. And it says, come close to God, okay, and He'll come close to you. So we can either choose willingly to come close to Him, but how many times have we opted
the reverse of that, right? Which is basically like trying to run away from God or hide or avoid. I just thought I'd talk about that a little bit. Anybody have any comments on that? Willie, you look like you had something on your mind.
No.
Okay, all right. Okay, go ahead.
If we choose to live a double life, we may begin to doubt whether God hears us at all.
What does that mean?
Well, in a scenario for myself, I got to thinking more about the problem, and I got more thinking that, okay, I can't get through this. And I kept on thinking, well, the problem's got me. And then I realized that, hey, I'm not even thinking about God anymore. It's just problem, 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 problem. And there's no answer in a problem unless you got the solution at hand.
What was that statement again?
Huh?
What was your statement again? I really like that.
He said there's no answer.
There's no answer in the problem.
I like that.
Yeah, it's good. Good statement. So, but there's an interesting statement here. It said if we're living a double life, then if we're not careful, we're going to doubt whether God can hear us at all.
Right. Because we're driving ourselves away from Him.
Okay, all right. And so we have shifted from a single-minded devotion to a plurality, or at least double, things going on, and that takes up all the space inside of us. And then we feel bad, and then we feel like, well, God can't hear me because I'm too bad. That's what we tell ourselves.
Yep.
But He hears everything you say anyway, right?
Yep.
Okay, all right. I feel like I'm torturing you. Am I torturing you?
Like I said, when I pick out these steps, it's the ones I need the most.
Okay, all right. So is that a thank you?
Yes.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yes.
Just checking. Go
And
ahead.
when I think I got it under pat, I get up here and you ask a question that triggers different symptoms. And I have to figure this out. As a person with wait a minute, God hears us at all. As James wrote in James 1, verse 6 and 8, as a person with divided loyalty is unsettled as the waves in the sea that is blown and tossed in the wind.
What does that mean?
Well, like I said earlier, if you're thinking on your problem, you got so much, you're going this way and this, you don't know where you're going because all you're consumed of is the problem that, hey, I can't fix. And no matter what you can do to fix it, so you're getting deeper, and falling down without any way to get up. That's what I think that means.
Okay. Well, what does it mean here that you're a wave tossed and blown? And let me read it here. It says a person with divided loyalties is an unsettled as a wave. Okay, a wave of the sea, a wave in the sea that is blown and tossed by the wind. So, what does that mean?
If you're not loyal to anything, you get loyal to more than one thing, whichever one pops up, you're gonna head that way, you're gonna go this way, you're gonna go that way.
That's true, but
You're looking for something different.
I'm talking about what does that mean about a wave being tossed in the sea and blown, and it's blown. What does that mean?
The wind's gonna move it.
Well, you have this wave that comes up in the water or the sea, Robert.
It means that you don't really know what's gonna happen. It's unsettled, it's unstable. Sometimes in a storm, there can be small waves, and then there's big waves, and it depends a lot on the wind. So it just, to me, the likening this to waves means that we can be tossed around.
Yes.
But I think the key, at least in my mind, the key point here is divided loyalty is what caused that. So we're fighting with our loyalty to God and our loyalty to ourselves. We're fighting the self-will versus God's will.
And creates us to be unstable.
Yeah.
And
so-
then the picture that I get when, particularly when it's talking to the blowing, is that it blows this water all over the place. We become scattered.
Yeah.
That kind of, I guess, what I was trying to get to is
Yeah.
we because of that divided loyalties, we're unstable, and then we set ourselves up to be blown all over the place
Yeah.
in all forms of all directions, and then it's really chaos at that time.
Yep.
And we set that up for ourselves. Can you believe that we do that to ourselves?
Nobody forces us.
That's a good statement, Robert. That's a good
I'd
statement.
more if they did.
What'd you say?
So I'd probably fight it more if they did.
Okay, go ahead.
Such people should not expect to receive anything from the Lord. Their loyalty.
What does that mean? Why? Why is he saying that?
Well, because you're. Okay. Such people should not be. Because they're not loyal to hit. Anybody else want to answer that question?
If you're not loyal to him, then why is he gonna be loyal to you?
Could be. Well, and that's true, but a while ago we talked about God.
You can't be lukewarm.
That's true, but we said a while ago that because of this double-mindedness, then it sets us up, and then we think that God can't hear us pray. So why could this sentence be saying such people should not expect to receive anything of this? Because we've set ourselves up and we've clouded ourselves up and put ourselves in such a situation, we can't. There's a part of us that won't even expect God to be able to hear us or receive anything from Him. How many times have we said, "I don't deserve it"?
Yeah. Never do.
And essence is we don't, but He's given it to us anyway. Just a thought. One of my harebrained things. Go ahead, Willie. Some more of the scripture.
Their loyalty is divided between God and the world, and they are unstable in anything they do.
Now, this is not talking about anybody in here, but people that are so divided and mixed up that they start all kinds of different things, but they can't finish anything. They're scattered. They're not any way to move through life in a orderly fashion because they're very disordered, very unordered. What do you think about that?
You sure you're not talking about anybody in this room?
Well, I was trying to be,
Hopefully we're-
nice.
Hopefully we've done the first couple of steps.
Right?
We've admitted that our life is unmanageable. And then we made a decision to turn our life over to God, which is supposed to help straighten all those unmanageable things out. But of course, we can't do it all at once.
Right.
It's a step-by-step
We're,
process.
we're trying to bring order to our life. We hopefully are a little more orderly than we've ever been in the past.
Yeah.
And because we got some structure, and it's not because it's the law that we have to live inside that structure. It's because we want the structure to live in us. Okay? And we choose to turn our life and our will over to the care of God and let that live in us to order us, to help us, empower us to continue to make these decisions. And I know I'm kind of getting into a little bit of preaching here, but go ahead, Willie.
When we resist the devil at every turn and come close to God, he will come close to us. When we open the hidden portions of our heart and begin to make choices in favor of recovery, we will soon grow confidence that God desires to help us.
And God does desire to help us, right?
Yes.
We believe that. And it's not about perfection, it's about process. And that He wants, as we continue to work on drawing close to Him. Now, see, because when we draw close to Him, we have this push and pull inside of ourselves because we know, okay? But the closer we get to Him, the more enabled we are to be able to let that stuff go and to be more single-minded. Would you agree with that statement?
Yeah.
Yes.
And we may take 2 steps forward and 1 step back, but we're still moving forwards. Now, sometimes we'll take 1 step forward and 2 steps back, but that's sometimes the process. And what we do is we use that inventory again to see where we're at and to redirect ourselves and bring more and more order. Comments? Robert?
I like what it says here, as we begin to make choices in favor of recovery.
Good.
Become more confident
Good.
that God really wants to help us. So that confidence, it's like a building block. When we make a good choice, it makes us feel better. It makes us realize, hey, maybe I am on the right path. I'm going in the right direction. And then we become more confident that God is helping us. So when we make that decision to turn our wills and lives over to God, and we see the results in a positive way, then it just strengthens everything. We become more stable, we become more confident, and the thing that we got to be careful of is we don't become overconfident.
We become self-reliant.
Right.
Okay. And then prideful. But that's part of the process, even that, that pendulum swings both ways, and we have to acquire the skill sets to help us to keep ourselves in that healthy zone. And so that's real good, Robert. I appreciate that. Anybody else?
Is that you?
Nope.
So, Willie, now we're down to the question. What did you learn from this lesson?
I learned that I've got to think before acting. I've got to,
Good point.
I've got to keep my goals of what I want to be where I want to be, not just next week, but 10 years from now. And if I don't stay focused and let God help me get there, I'm never gonna make it. And I just need to keep studying.
Well, it's, we set our direction and then we're continually fine tuning it the further we go, because we get more information, we get closer, we become more aware, we're able to operate the instruments maybe a little better. So, you got to be careful that you don't put too much pressure on yourself about perfection.
It's never about perfection. Never about perfection. I'm no better than anybody else.
Okay.
And
So, what's your takeaway?
stay on the right path. Just let God take you where He wants you to go.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Willie. Appreciate it.
Good job.
All right, Robert. The guy that's got all the answers.
Hardly.
Question, you better have to.
All right, single-minded devotion. What does resistance look like in my life?
That's a great question, isn't it?
Yeah, it sure is. Well, I have a long life, as you guys can tell. I've been around a long time, so that's a pretty loaded question.
Well, you only have to talk about what you want to talk about, so.
Yeah, well, I've spent a lot of time resisting God to my own detriment, of course. But I'm trying to do better, and but like I mentioned before, there's still things that I have to be really careful about. So I think just being aware of those things is helpful, but I gotta be honest, that there are temptations, so I think my entire program needs to be changing what's in my heart. I need to really align my desires with God. And I think something that we talked about earlier is being careful not to be leading double-mindedness. I want to put my own self-will way back there and try to let God be first in my life, so, but that's not easy.
Right?
Yeah, anybody else have some thoughts about that? What does resistance look like in my life? I think at first,
Did you have something you want to say, David? Okay.
I thought, what does resistance look like in my life? I thought it was, what am I doing to resist my addiction? But then the more I thought about the topic, single-minded devotion, I think the resistance is talking about resisting the idea that I have to let God be the controlling influence in my life. And so it's something that I've struggled with. I got very, very far away from God to the point where, yeah, I didn't think I was worthy. I didn't think God would listen to me. I didn't think I deserved even a chance. But thankfully, He heard my prayers and made me think that there is hope. I always think about, there's a song that we sing in church, you guys may have heard it, but it says, all my life you have been faithful. All my life you've been so, so good. With everything that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God. So every time I hear that, I just want to cry, because God never left me. I left Him. And that's the honest truth, you know, and if we realize that, it'll make our life a lot better, that God is there. We just gotta open ourselves up to Him.
That's good. Real good. Good. Go ahead and do step 2. Question 2.
What do I have to face in myself when I draw close to God? Well, I have to face that sometimes I still have to admit that it's difficult to get rid of my self-will. I think that I'm a pretty smart person, you know. But
How's that work out for you?
not good. So I have to recognize that, and when I draw close to God, things work out much better than if I draw close to myself and think that I know better.
Yes, that's good.
So I have to face that, and you know, like I was mentioning before, the distractions are big, and I have to really watch out for them. I have to stay busy in doing things that are in line with God. I had a situation at work this last week that I kind of had to make a decision, because the boss asked me to do something, and I didn't feel like that was the right thing to do according to my understanding of God's will for me. So I told him, I said, I don't think that's the right thing, because a customer had overpaid their bill, and I wanted to let them know about it. And he said, it's not our responsibility to do their accounting for them. And I said, well, I think we need to look at in the long term, if we're honest and tell them about it, it might do wonders for a long-term relationship. You know, that they think if we're an honest company that they're going to continue doing business with us. And he finally, begrudgingly, I think, came around to my viewpoint, so I didn't have to quit, at least.
Congratulations. Seriously.
Yeah, I felt good about it, and I felt like I was doing the right thing, and that God blessed me for it by saving the job, you know. Ready for number 3?
Does Does anybody want to reflect on that same question?
What do I have to face when I'm still trying to walk close to God?
Right,
Pride,
okay, good,
stubbornness, your own strong will.
good,
Gotta humble yourself.
great. Anybody else? It's a big question. Okay. Mike?
Okay, number 3, how is addiction connected to my resistance to God's direction in my life? Well, like I said, it's the temptation is great. I have to recognize that I got the devil on one shoulder trying to convince me that it's okay, but God has so far been deeper in my heart, and I'm really trying to strengthen my resolve to go in the right direction. And to be honest, my gambling addiction is really the only thing that I feel like could sway me from going in the right direction, because I'm a pretty good person overall. I try to help people. I try to be a good neighbor. I pray, I read the Bible, but it's just that darn gambling addiction. It's just it's a struggle, and it's difficult, and I have to just be mindful that that's the thing that's gonna turn me on the wrong way if I'm not careful. If I don't allow God to take control, I have no doubt that I'll be in bad shape again.
Because it, oftentimes our addictions will compound things because it gets worse, things happen, it exponentially gets worse.
Yeah.
So, good. Any comments?
Can you do that question again?
I'm sorry?
Can you read that last question again?
How is addiction connected to my resistance to God's direction in my life?
Can I answer that too?
Yeah.
For me, I would think that it's natural for me to want to do what feels good, the easier, softer way, and it's not always the easiest way to go through God's will. In my addiction, I know if I get into my addiction, I'm not accountable for, a lot of other areas of my life that I'd rather, I don't know how to say the word, but I do know that my addiction feels good, and walking with Christ is more of a responsibility, like we talked about last week, and as long as I'm, and I'd like to see it as accountability. As long as I'm not walking into accountability, it's a whole lot easier for me to live life according to my will. But the minute I get into God's will, I'm accountable for what I do, responsible. So that would be my answer of how my addiction does it. Because when I look back, I just look up my police record. It's not important about what was on it, but I'll say, when I looked at this, I didn't remember half the things that was on there. So I must have got really good drugs. But in doing so, I wasn't accountable for other things I did in my mind, because first off, I didn't remember them. Now that I'm trying to walk a different way and trying to live for Christ, and I guess sometimes it's probably important to say that. I can say my addiction, I can say I live for Christ. I look back and I said last week, I'm still accountable for all the things I did, but even if I don't remember doing them or however the fact may be, but my addiction affects every part about me. When I looked at that record, I could see all the reasons why God shouldn't love me. How's that? Because I look at everything in the human eyes and I see how everybody else is looking at me and I assume God is like a human, but I gotta remember, and I have this very strong thing today where I was looking at my soul and thought, maybe I'm doing this different because it's not this body. My body's getting old. I know you guys didn't notice, but I'm getting old. And the body's not as valuable to society as it was when I was younger. Because I could do a lot of things back then and never really bothered me. Today I gotta be a little more cautious on the things I do, because if I don't, then I won't be able to do nothing for a while, and that really affects my life. So maybe God's wanting this soul, not this body, and if I can separate the two, maybe God being this spiritual entity that He is, it's not what I look like, it's not the things that I've always judged myself on as far as being a person, as much as this soul that's in me is having this spiritual battle almost every day with my mind and my heart, because I know what I want, but my mind, I don't know if it's my mind or my heart, but it seems like I got a constant battle within myself between right and wrong, and the more I get to know what is right, the harder this walking right is, because now I gotta hold myself accountable. So it's real easy for me to get lazy and stop reading the Word, because then, you know, I can deal with tomorrow from where I got there, I ain't gotta go further. But my true desire is to actually draw closer to Christ, and that I have to get in some uncomfortable spots to be where I really want to be, because my addiction was easy. It was easy for me to be accepted by everybody around me when we were all making the same mistakes. But when I walk separately from those of the world, it feels like I'm being almost outcasted from everyone around me, to where I'm almost forced into isolation, or at least that's what my mind wants to tell me. But every time I step out of that, people seem to accept me for just who I am. But in my mind, I want to isolate myself because I feel the difference instead of the similarity between me and everyone else. And if what I'm saying is true, then it shouldn't really matter about who's around me. It's their soul that God's after, not the person. And I have a problem with looking at the person and not the soul. I got quiet. This is true. It's how I've been dealing with this all day.
Congratulations.
I want to congratulate him now because it didn't feel comfortable. It
Well,
still don't feel comfortable. It's fine,
That's
I
the reason why I'm
feel
saying
comfortable.
congratulations. You know, growth is painful.
It is.
Even though somebody disagreed with me last week about that.
Yeah, well, God thing's here today. I watched that video probably 100 times since then, not because I want to see me, but I was so amazed at how I got up there, and some of the things I said I never really even thought about. So it's got to be God working through me, because there wasn't nothing negative there. So, I mean, I like to question myself on a lot of things, and a lot of things don't need to be said over the internet, but I'll just say that there's a lot of opportunities coming into my life now, and these opportunities can go either way, and it depends on which way I want to look at it, from which way is better. Because from the fleshly viewpoint, you know, I want to be the one with a brand new car and a nice house, and that isn't really what's important in the end, because I can't take that with me. Anyway.
And that's true, and that's the reason why, you know, we read here in James tonight about, you know, that we humble ourselves before God, and that we resist the devil, okay? And the devil's not always on the outside, sometimes he's on the inside too. You know what I mean?
I think you can get in our mind, but not our heart. Just saying.
Well, it's what's in me that's the problem. You know, it's not maybe not saying that we are being possessed, but when we draw closer to Him, if we are trying to do what you said earlier about in our first or second line there, that let's see, what was it? It was letting Him define the overall direction of our life. You know, if we can stay in that we're letting Him define our overall direction, and then, but don't stop there. let him define the strategic stuff too, right? You know, but that's our choice. If we want him to get, because if we get closer to him, then he's gonna get closer to us. Right? So, what did you learn from the lesson tonight, Mr. Robert?
I learned that we've got to make a choice and make sure that our heart is leading us in the right direction. So if we have our devotion to God, then that will help us. And we don't want to resist His leadings.
So we need to resist the right thing, right?
Yeah.
Resist the devil, but don't resist God. That'd be a good thing. So what's your takeaway?
My takeaway is every day try to do better.
Good. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Good, Robert.
Good job.
Thank you, Robert. Any comments from anybody? Final words?
Your phone ringing, Longo.
Do what?
Robert,
Yeah,
your phone was ringing.
I heard it in my hearing aid, that's why I was kind of,
Distracted? Oh, okay. I didn't know whose it was, so. Any final comments? All right, good deal. A scripture that came to my mind when we were in the last part of, I think it was in one of Robert's questions there, was out of Hebrews 4:16, and I've used it with talking with people, and it says, let us therefore come boldly to the throne of grace and obtain mercy in the time of need, which has been an important scripture for me, and that is that we need to come boldly. He wants us to come boldly, not with arrogance, but that we have confidence, which is, that term come up earlier. I think Robert used confidence, and another word for confidence is faith. That we are able to come boldly to His throne of grace and obtain mercy. He wants to help us. We'll receive His mercy in the time of need. Not when everything's good in our life, but He's also there for when things are not going so well. But we need to come to Him so that He can help. What do you think about that? All right, so may the Lord bless you and keep you, and may His face shine upon you, may He smile upon you and give you His peace. Make healthy choices. So, see you next week, and Robert's going to be doing